you might get a pop-up that we're recording this. So we do want to kind of keep this so that we can figure out and give some information to some individuals that were not able to attend today. So like I said, this is Mark Durgan, the project director for the Pennsylvania Care Partnership. I wanted to welcome everybody on the call. This call was a result of an invite that went out. It looks like probably in the beginning of December to give some information on some things that York County, one of our system of care counties here at the state level system of care grant, has been doing for some time with their lighting up green and lighting up York green. And then we actually did it last year here at the state and lit up the state capitol green for a week. When we had kind of talked about this at a few meetings, there seemed to be a little bit more interest in this kind of project. It really related to the mental health month coming up in May. We are going to be having an event here at the Capitol. We have a little bit of feedback, so I think it's giving some feedback. So like I said, if you're on here and you have something to say, please unmute yourself. Or if you're you can mute yourself on your end, because there's some I can mute, but if I'm afraid if I mute them on my end, if it's just a phone, they might not be able to unmute themselves. So like I said, we were doing this here at the state capitol. We did it last year. And like I said, we kind of took a lot of the ideas that York County was doing with their green, lighting up the city green and then the county green. It's great that it's grown each year. And let me frame also this a little bit. So some of what we're doing with these kind of calls and getting information out to everybody is part of our, probably would most relate to our grant directors community of practice. So for all of our SAMHSA grants that we have around the state, the Commonwealth of PA, we have this community of practice that provides information, guidance, and resources for our various grant directors to get information out and ask questions. This would be kind of what we consider a practice group of that, or a subgroup that could be time limited, get some information out, get some learning, and then kind of moving forward. So we can always follow back with some additional information on the community of practice and the practice group if anybody's interested. I will make sure to put actually, Jamal, if you could put my email in the chat feature, that'd be great in case anybody needed it. And then I'll be also monitoring the chat feature, and I'll ask Jamal if you could do the same for me. So if you have questions, we can answer them as we go through, and then also always ask them as needed, and we can go from there. So with that, I want to definitely introduce Colleen Igo. So Colleen is one of our county system of care directors, coordinators, marketing gurus, and really one of our great partners here from our state system of care grant. And I've had the privilege of knowing Colleen for many years. So hopefully, Colleen, you can hear us and we can hear you.
Yes, yes, great.
Awesome.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm just going to just go through an overview, and there will also be some details as to how we as a county set up our green light campaign. First, let me say I'm so excited for all the people on the phone call, because I really do hope and dream that this would go throughout the state. I have a couple partnerships that I'm working with a national company, and they said as I get more people, we can also hopefully earn some discounts, and I'll be going into that in a few minutes. But just the origin of this, I do have to say, calls like this, Mark, that you're put together, they are so helpful, because it was 3 years ago, a gentleman who was from Tennessee mentioned that they lit up their bridge green. I'm like, oh, wow, how did they do that? So I called him, and the only thing they did was basically like a landmark like that. They didn't go into some of the things that I'm going to be going into today. So really, whatever you take away from this, you choose your level of the time that you have for something like a green light campaign. So let's get started. So a lot of this, I just encourage you, anything that you see and anything that I share, you are all welcome to use or edit as you wish. The one thing I would say is to do a national campaign or a statewide campaign, it's great to have the same branding. So I actually have, I would make all this available, like our vector files that you would need, the PMS colors, the JPEG files, whatever you would need in order to put your marketing materials together. But this was created with a committee. We had probably a committee about 15 people, and together we came up with the slogan, and I worked with a graphic artist for the artwork. So that's our theme, and hopefully that's something that you like as well. So if you were like me, the first thing I worried about and wondered about is like, what do you do with lights? How do you deal with the lights? Where do you get the lights? So I know entirely too much about lights. I can tell you some of the things I learned. And you'll see this later in the PowerPoint, but there's different ways that organizations, providers, businesses, individuals can light up green. So we actually used, we had green light bulbs people could order online. Some locations had spotlights. We also had candles where we had the tips of the candles green. We did string lights. We also, in the middle there is like it's like a wash light. So basically, you'll see the effect of this in many of the buildings that we had, where you change the light to green and it fills up the room. And we also got smart too, that there's timers. So who's ever in charge of doing the evening lights, everything's set up and pretty easy to do. In addition to that, there's a company, like I had mentioned, it's called Roscoe, and the autism organization, they actually use them as well. They do a blue light campaign. So there is a website that is going to be customized for us again this year. They did it last year, and I can make sure it's open to everybody. That shows people where to buy the filters that they would need for lights. So people can either do the light bulbs that I showed you, but they also can do what's called a gel. And it's basically like a Mylar that would go over an existing light bulb. And those are the two colors that that we have an agreement with them to use to give the best green effect. So for example, with the Roscoe company, we ordered the rolls of this Mylar, and we worked with our York City, and they did lamps in Center City. They wrapped the light bulbs in the green, and then it reflected the green. So those are just some of the logistics, and obviously I can go into more detail if anyone has more questions, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of how this worked. It varied by company and by individual. So we actually bought most of the flood lamps and then gave them to key locations, so that you'll see in these pictures, they would have lit up like a front of an office. From the county's perspective, we met with our maintenance person, our building and grounds person, and we actually purchased lights that they would need for the county buildings. So everyone is different as far as to what their needs might be, but that's how we approached it. So what I thought I would do today is just kind of break it into 3 sections, and you can choose which area you're more interested in, but it just makes it more, it's kind of like a big elephant. Just we're going to work on the ear right now, which is, we're going to talk about how we shined our county green. The second thing is how we shared the message to our schools. And the third is how we shared the community about mental health awareness. So the first one is shining green. So we decided, this will be our 3rd year, but we decided to do a kickoff walk. So in the top left corner, you're going to see our mayor, our county commissioners, and also our human services director, who did a presentation, just about a 5-minute presentation about mental wellness. We also had a proclamation. We sold t-shirts for $5. We had signs available, and people just walked. It was probably about a 10-minute walk. We just had them go around town. We had some great news coverage. You can see on the bottom left, we pretty much had every news station there, and also we had some print media. So that was pretty cool.
Hey, Colleen, quick question. Where did, like, so everyone paid $5. What did that give them any incentives? Did the money go to something?
No, it just covered the cost of our t-shirts.
Okay.
Yep. The media was really open to it. Like I said, we sent out the announcement, and we had a lot of coverage. The people that we targeted were, of course, the administrators who participated in the event. Then we also opened it to county employees, city employees. We invited all of our providers. We had clients. And this year, I'm really excited. We're going to have every school district was invited. For those who serve on a special committee called the Mental Health Alliance. Those students from the Mental Health Alliance are actually having their meeting downtown, and then they're going to join us on the walk. So we'll have about between 80 and 100 students walking with us this year. Any questions with the walk?
Oh, actually, Colleen, quick question. So the t-shirt design, is that something that you're planning on using again, like that same kind of front design, or was that like a one-time only thing, or is that something?
Yeah, we have the design that obviously would be available to anyone. It's the line art with the same concept of, light the way for mental health. So we were just going to keep that. So the way we broke out the green lights, we looked at landmarks, businesses, and neighborhoods. We did giveaways. We had stress balls, pens, bracelets, ribbons, glow necklaces. But if you see on the table on the bottom left, those are little giveaway bags. We had them available at our different events. The t-shirts, we did a bunch of light bulbs that we handed out to people. We had some cool light up pens and some bracelets, and we had a bunch of flyers and other things for people to put in their windows. Okay, so our first thing that we did is we concentrated on county landmarks, and I guess it is overwhelming when you see all of this. We didn't do all of this at one time. We kind of built up to it. But in working with the different county and city landmarks, the lights that you see in there on the left, that's basically like that floodlight I showed you. We put the lights, they have to be stationed a certain way to get the most green. But basically, the timer turned them on at night and lit up that front office. It's also lit in the bottom, but it's just harder to see because of the street lights. The middle one is our judicial center. So we worked with the county on that. And that's where they got the special light bulbs. And then on the right, that's our city hall where the mayor is. Then we also partnered with businesses and also just community landmarks that people would know. So downtown, it came out really well. We had a lot of, we lit up the tree. You can see that on the bottom left. Some of this is harder to see. On the very top one, we had a bank that they have the great front window that we lit up their office. In the middle, we teamed up with all of the fire companies and in the city and had them change their lights. And then on the right is a community theater, which is located right downtown. So those are just an example of some of the things.
And Colleen, if I'm not mistaken, for when you engaged all of those community partners, I think you had basically almost like a welcome letter that kind of explained it, so you didn't have to provide some detail as to kind of what you were doing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, we did. And I have samples of all that too, where we actually have a Google form where now that we're doing it in the third year, we just sent out and we will send out an email saying, do you want your light bulbs again? Are you willing to participate? And then for the new people, we go and do visits with them. So these are the different ways that people participated. again, on the top left, we provided that floodlight for them. The next picture is a restaurant, and he put his own string lights on. We had one of our providers, we had a couple of restaurants, and then also homes. And it really was a good conversation piece. Our goal, yes, was to concentrate on a certain area, but it doesn't hurt to go into the neighborhoods, because people are saying, oh, why do you have a green light bulbs? So it sparks conversations. So if you kind of broke up the campaign, that's what's involved with the green light campaign. Providing light bulbs on some occasions, having people distribute the light bulbs. We try to make it as easy as possible. We had instructions on how to set up your lights in an office, the flashlight, the floodlights, to get the biggest bang. And also provided like posters and flyers so that they could put it in their window and people could understand why their office is lit up green. So any questions with that first campaign? The second campaign that I kind of broke out was getting schools involved with the green light contest. And we did it, and we're going to do it differently this year. So I'm just going to tell you how we did it, how we're going to do it this year. But we put together a structure for the contest. And again, I definitely would share that with you. And how, what the message is that we want the youth to put out there. If you click on that link, that'll take you into all of the contest winners and how we had it set up. This is a flyer that we sent out to all the schools and went over all the guidelines, but basically we had a competition with the school that lit up and decorated their school the greenest. The second was implementing a special event fundraiser, and the third was making a 30 or 60-second PSA. What we're doing differently this year is combining category 1 and 2. So because we found like with the fundraisers or special events, they were also lighting up green. So we're just gonna change that for this year. They loved the winning schools got funds that they could use toward their mental health initiatives. So we've really got a lot of involvement from the VEDM. And we were excited to then give first place winners to each one of those categories. And I encourage you to go on to that link from the slide before, because you'll actually see how the videos, and you'll see how the youth put together a special event. And we made everything very, very simple for them. So if they were lighting up their school green, we said, just take a video of it under 5 minutes, just do a voiceover. It doesn't have to look pretty, and produced, but just show us all the things that you've done. So when you click on that link, you'll see some of the places the kids put, light bulbs on lockers, and some had health fairs, and some lit up their entire front lobby green. So you'll see a lot of really cool and creative things. And the same goes with the PSA. I really encourage you to look at that. They're so talented.
Yeah, I think, Colleen, historically, you've had very good luck with the PSA and really impressive quality too.
Oh, totally. Yeah, definitely. In fact, the winning PSA, in the past, we had them posted at a movie theater. But this past 2 years, we worked with the Rev Stadium, and we had it put on the Jumbotron, as well as sending it out to the community. But that's a really big charge for the kids to see their video on the Jumbotron. This past year, we were able to put all the videos aired on the Jumbotron prior to the game. So that was really cool.
I think that also counts as a nice piece of matching in-kind advertisement.
Yes, for sure. And it's amazing how creative the kids are. Some of them did 5K runs. Some had sporting events where they wore green. So it's really they're really creative. When they submitted their videos, we also reached out to the community and asked for judges. So these were judged by family members, by people involved with the system of care, providers. So we really wanted to get the whole community involved with choosing the winners. So we got the green light bulbs, and now the second one was what we did with the schools. And the third part of our green light campaign was we teamed up with the Rev Stadium. This is the Revolution team. They've been in our community for quite a bit. And we also teamed up with Lamar Advertising, and you'll see a couple of things that we did with them. So everything that you see here, we'll be chatting about. This was probably, I would say, really one of the great outreaches that we did. We had mental health vendors, had a lot of games. We had fireworks, a whole bunch of fun things for that day. So we had our executive director there, Michelle Havis, who gave opening remarks and talked about mental health awareness. We, as I mentioned, had the public service announcement winners. They were played all throughout the start of the game. And then the winning one was played during the game at the 7-inning stretch. If you look at that first picture, the bigger picture, straight ahead is Light the Way for Mental Health. We had our logos on the fields, throughout the game. We also invited mental health vendors to the fair. This was a lot of fun. There's a lot of interactions. We also sold t-shirts there as well. We did a singing contest, and we sent this out to all of the school districts in hopes that we would get a lot of submissions. So we did have that, and we also had a first pitch where we had a youth from one of our programs throughout the first pitch. Another thing that we did was a hat auction. So we had, throughout that entire week, the baseball players wear their hats, and then at the end, which was at the game, they auctioned them off, and the players stayed, and they also signed the hats. We sold all the hats. It was really well received, and people loved it. Sweaty hats from the players. The other thing that we did to make this even more special is we teamed up with the Suicide Prevention Task Force and the Coroner's Office. We had 96 people die by suicide last year, and we invited, and it was the Coroner's Office made the initial request on our behalf, invited those family members to participate in a special ceremony following the game. We had over 100 families come out to stand with a green light in memory of their loved one who died by suicide. And off to the right is a video, and that you can also see on our website, that aired, and it was very, very moving. It was very moving. You'll have to watch the video, and the families were so, it was just so touched and appreciated their family members being remembered. So we are going to be doing that again this year. We also recognize too, it was, a difficult time. So we actually had people already lined up in a space at the field where they could go and talk to someone. So we had crisis workers on the field, and then also off the field to help families. So it was really a beautiful ceremony. With all of that, there's so many communication aspects to it. So I'm just going to throw a couple things out that we have done. So we worked with Lamar. They were super nice in donating this space. And just so happened, he had a family member who died by suicide. And he again offered to, I talked to him for this coming year, and he's on board to participate again. So it was like $5,000 worth of advertising, which was amazing. We also invested in yard signs, pretty much similar to like political signs that you see. So we can use these from year to year. And then we did a lot of e-blasts. So we reminded people about the event. We did thank you notes after the event. And we did a follow-up newsletter to kind of show them the culmination of everything, including we had one of our staff members, her son is a videographer in college. He's studying that. He did an amazing job. And again, you'll see that on the website of a video he did of the lights and also of the Revs game. It was pretty cool. And then of course we have social media. This year, that very first one, it's a site that I welcome all of you, if you do decide to do a green light campaign, to post your green light pictures there so that we can kind of have it from all over the state. So, and that's it. So we always try to say we want to spark the conversation. So, and shed the light on mental health. So any conversation or questions that you have?
Whenever you first started in this, like the first year you did this, what was your budget to kind of get things started? I'm just trying to think of, you know, what would be a good first step, or, because I'm sure it's grown over the years, so.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I guess, I would put it this way. It's like you kind of decide how far you want to go. So for instance, if you just want to do landmarks, like if you go on Amazon, you can get floodlights, you know, for like $30 a piece, but you're going to need several of them depending upon the room size. But then if you want to do, you know, the pens, I mean, you know, if you're talking about $1.50 a piece. So it really depends on how extensive you want to do it. I can send you like the things that we paid for and the quantities, just so you have an idea. But it's an investment, especially if you're buying the lights to use from year to year and the signs from year to year. And like for instance, well, I had done a little label on them, and it just said basically, keep these for next year. We're going to be doing it again. Some people did. The bigger lights, the spotlights, we did go and get those back. The string lights and the candles we did go get back, and the string lights, we didn't. So, and some people kept them, and then some people didn't have them.
I think the other thing to look at is also, Colleen, if I'm not mistaken, like with the state capitol, so they had, for different initiatives, they had the films or the lights already. So some of these, especially if it's a government building, they may have that already. So it's maybe just a matter of asking. And if there was another question of where did you purchase the shirts?
In our community, we just went to athletic lettering. So any sort of promotional company like that, or even online, you could do it. And again, that artwork, we would have it in the vector format that they would need to do things like t-shirts. And I would say this too, it is a lot. There's a lot of details to the campaign, but I think too, even if looking at one or two ways to make a big bang, I encourage you to go on to Autism Awareness with their blue light campaign. I mean, they picked some big companies, and they had they're very impactful to see those big buildings lit up like that.
See, there's a comment, I think cross communication with other campaigns such as Dr. Adair's Mental Health Film Festival, and I had not heard of that yet. Dr. Adair is the medical director for OMSAUS. Oh. And then there's another comment, also engaging with organizations in the community. Okay.
We also pulled in our provider, CCBH, who provides services through Health Choices, and they were one of our sponsors. So with that first question, that could be a source. We also had approval to use our system of care funds toward the campaign as well. So.
No, and I do know that we shared this with SAMHSA last year, and I think we got even some of it may end up making the recognition piece for their after the Mental Health Awareness Month newsletter. So they were very happy with the event in general.
Colleen, this is Crystal. Did you guys think about reaching out to local industry and business and asking them to sponsor, potentially with, if not through dollars, through purchasing some of the lights and other things that are paying for things?
We just reached out to them to participate, and we didn't ask for sponsorship. We were in pretty good shape at this point, being able to purchase everything in bulk.
Okay. I just wanted for those who don't have those systems of care dollars to be able to utilize.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Even
help sustain it as well.
For sure. For example, with our hospital, we have a behavioral health, WellSpan is the hospital, and we have the behavioral health program through them. So they were one of our sponsors and paid for designs that they put into their facilities. So yeah, there's negotiation factors there for the bigger companies. And the devil's in the details. I didn't put everything on here, but if anyone is interested, like I have the various letters and the promotional materials that were sent out. I'd be happy to share whatever area that you're most interested in, and even perhaps to brainstorm about the first step or the next step you want on the campaign. And you just do it at the level that you're able to, because it does take time, and you know how it goes. Sometimes it falls on the main person. So, just being aware of that, it takes a little bit of time, but I do think it has a big impact on the community.
Colleen, it's Larissa from Carbon Monroe Pike. I was wondering if I could get a welcome letter that you gave to the district and county partners to explain what the program with the campaign was all about.
You cut out. Did you say? Can you say which letter for which one?
Yeah, the welcome letter for the businesses and county partners.
Yep. Yep, I can do that. And I could put all the letters together into one document, and then you can just pick it from that. You can see all of them that were sent out.
Colleen, this is Nancy Massey. With this Shed the Light, are you also offering, now there's a light, where do I go, what do I do, who, those type of resources?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. I should have mentioned that. So we created an actual website, Light the Way for Mental Health. And in that website, we have resources that the committee, with the help of the committee, they gathered, and it went from depression to suicide to bipolar. Like, it has all sorts of screening tools and information that we drove people to. Everything that we had, we also used our QRC code, so people could easily just tap into that and go for the resources. We, for example, at the Rev Stadium, we handed out brochures along with, it was in a clear bag, and we had a sticker on it, and then it included like the website information as well as where to go for help, and handed them out to every person that attended the event. We also did a feature in one of our local magazines. It's an online magazine, and it featured one of the folks who actually was part of our governance council, And in that, we had resources of where to go for help. So I appreciate you pointing that out, because everything did drive back to, now what? If you know someone, here's some information on where to go for help.
Thanks, Colleen.
And
And
Colleen, I
I
think
just,
there might be some other opportunities there. As there's some other projects that are happening, and hopefully this will be released by the time Mental Health Awareness Month goes around. But in Prevent Suicide PA, which is the statewide suicide prevention piece, they're going to hopefully have up and running by then the live online learning management system. That could also be a point of focus if we wanted to drive people there as well.
oh, that's great. And even with the PSA, thanks to, Shay from the Garrett Lee Smith and Perry, they were helpful years ago when we started it. We used their PSA contest as a model for us. And that too was when anywhere that's played, it shows where if you need help, call the number or reach out to an adult, so there's always that point of action at the end.
And this is Shay. The Prevent Suicide PA's online learning center is actually already live, so I can put the link in the chat.
Oh, it is. Okay, thank you, Shay.
Yep.
Maybe I'm just thinking of the additional pieces that they're bringing in.
Yeah, they're working to add more and more to it, but there are some courses on there that can already be accessed, including the ones for educators and Act 71. So I'll just add that to the chat.
Any additional questions or thoughts? Or is anybody else also doing anything that could be helpful?
I think too, in just like a quickie thing, if you want to, that doesn't take a lot of time, but if you do want to at least take a stab at this, if you have a downtown area, this past year, like I said, we lit up our street lamps, but then also lit up our center square. We had a banner that went across Center Square, and we also worked with our Downtown Inc., which is our, they're like a York City community outreach group that tries to bring businesses together. They own Planner on the ground.
Planners,
yeah. And we had little posters made, yard signs made to put in there so that people could see like, oh, this is why they turned green. So that's relatively less expensive to do something like that. I can't go without saying like, I have a dream, especially, with Martin Luther King Day. I have a dream that our whole state will light up green.
Yeah, I think it's it also this event does tie into the governor's new initiative that was released a couple of weeks ago. I think with some of the stigma campaigns and bringing some attention to this. So there might be a good way to tie this in together. I know I got two messages here. One from Chris Minnick that said, "Thank you very much, great ideas," and then there was another one here from Michelle Baxter mentioning that. There's the assumption, and she's correct, I think, that will tie this into the mental health awareness event that's being held here in May at the Harrisburg event. So yes and yes. So I guess seeing that we're getting kind of close to 11, and in lieu of not keeping people on, Colleen, would it be sensible if people, I mean, we have your email there, and I'll definitely put that in the chat feature real quick. But if people are looking for information, we can get it there, or we can also, if Colleen, if you want to send it to me in a couple of different packages, we can also load it onto our website and send that out to everybody so that they can pull some of the information from there as well.
Sure, absolutely. And feel free to call me. That's my work line, my cell phone, so feel free to call if you have any questions.
So with that, I do want to thank everybody for being on. And if you have any questions, like I said, please reach out to myself or Colleen. It's cigo@yorkcountypa.gov, cigo@yorkcountypa.gov. And we'll be happy to give you some information. Like I said, we'll try to get this up on the website too, and get the link out to everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
And a big thank you to you, Colleen, for putting this presentation together. It was very informative and very helpful.
Yes, thanks, Colleen. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Colleen.